This year is very significant in European history. It is the centenary of the end of the First World War and of the end of the monarchy in Germany. But this video isn't about that. It's about a German spy who was executed at the beginning of the war. His name, Carl Hans Lody. I first found out about him when I went to Lübeck last year and found a memorial to him in one of the city gates. It had been put there by the Nazis, who viewed him as a martyr, a gallant hero brutally murdered by the evil British. The truth is a little bit different and surprisingly entertaining. It's fair to say that Lody was no James Bond. The fact that he was captured and executed within months of the outbreak of war is testament to that. In fact, as spies go, Lody was woefully incompetent. He was a tourist guide and had travelled extensively throughout Europe. And he'd met and married an American woman and gone to live in America for a few years until his marriage failed and he returned to Germany. In 1914, he was approached by German naval intelligence. He'd travelled, he spoke excellent English, and he was at a bit of a loose end. He certainly seemed like the right sort of candidate. But he was so eager to take up the job that his handlers started to worry. Issued with a stolen American passport and almost no training at all, he was sent to Great Britain, something that his handlers were very unhappy about indeed. They tried to warn him of the dangers that he would face, including the very real possibility that he would be killed. But he just laughed it off. His handlers tried to convince their superiors that Lody couldn't be trusted with the job, but the superiors didn't listen. And so Lody was sent to the UK overconfident in his own abilities and completely unprepared. He hadn't even bothered to learn a secret code, so all his communications would have to be in plain English and German. No sooner had he arrived in Edinburgh than British intelligence discovered who he was and started monitoring all his correspondence. They opened his letters, photographed them, and then resealed them. He wasn't saying anything much that was of any use to the Germans, so the British authorities waited to see what they could learn about the German espionage network. Lody was more useful to British intelligence than he ever was to German intelligence. At one point he reported that thousands and thousands of Russian soldiers had crossed the Arctic Circle to Scotland and were making their way by train down south. This was completely untrue, and so British intelligence was only too happy to let that message through. Lody had basically heard a rumour that was spreading through the country like wildfire. People everywhere were talking about trains packed full of Russians travelling from Scotland to London. Some said there were up to 1 million of them. Some swore they'd seen these trains and heard the people inside shouting "Vodka!" Some said they'd seen the soldiers, great big guys with bushy beards. Some said they still had snow on their boots, which was strange because it was late August. The truth, in fact, was that reservists from the Scottish Highlands were being transported south. Some of them spoke not Russian, but Gaelic, and the English couldn't tell the difference. And when a guard at one railway station asked one group where they were from, they replied, "Rossshire." Eventually, Lody realised that people were beginning to talk about his accent and saying that he sounded to them more German than American. So, sensibly, he decided to try to flee to Ireland. But being so inexperienced, he left behind a trail of clues, allowing the British to very easily capture him. He was duly tried and executed. To his credit, he impressed everybody at the trial with his courage and honour. But there was one last moment of farce to come. Asked to identify the man, the proprietress of the boarding house he'd been staying at looked around the court everywhere except the dock. Eventually, the ever-courteous Lody helped her out by waving to attract her attention. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to send me a postcard, here's the address. And don't forget to visit my website and follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Also, if you'd like access to special bonus content and help with the costs of running this channel, please consider making a small monthly donation on Patreon.